Hello and welcome to our very first episode of Two Peas in a Pod. So we decided to do this podcast, myself, Philippa Botrill and Philippa Butler, and we're just going to discuss all things to do with health and well-being. So this is our first ever podcast, and today we decided that we would choose the topic of really all about lockdown and how you can boost your immunity and things that we've done and things that we suggest you do as well to just help you through this period. So, hi Philippa, otherwise known as Pippa.
Hi.
So we're going to start off with lockdown. What have you done? What do you think you've done to improve your immunity during this time? Well, let's start off. Have you even thought about improving your immunity?
Well, we know each other well, and so you probably know this about me, that it's something I do all the time anyway.
Yeah.
And, I was talking with my eldest son then. We were out walking to work. We go for a walk to work in the morning, even though we're not actually going anywhere.
That's great.
And, So, and I said to him, well, really, I'm not doing anything differently, apart from the fact that because I'm at home more, I'm really loving being outside as much as I can, especially because of the weather being so nice.
Yeah, that's been a huge benefit, hasn't it? I think if the weather had been miserable, this whole period would have felt very, very different to everybody. But having that wonderful weather and getting out, and I think, I know that you always used to do a daily walk anyway. We've had that discussion before, and you know that I've always done a daily walk, usually after my evening meal. But like you, I've been going out every day, often first thing in the morning, because that's the best time of the day, isn't it? I mean, I just love it, don't you, when the roads are quiet, everything's quiet except for nature, and it's just wonderful to be out there.
Well, definitely early morning exposure to sunlight is really sets us off on our day. In terms of, one of the biggest things that I've been working on myself recently is the whole idea of the circadian rhythms.
Yeah, absolutely. So for those that don't know, we're talking really about your natural body clock.
Yeah.
And they're so important, aren't they? And just go back to that point that you said about, getting that early morning daylight. I mean, I think that's so important for a number of reasons, but of course for the vitamin D, it's vital. Have you read any of those researchers that they're doing at the moment that's saying vitamin D is really effective for, not just improving our immunity, but to help with this, against this virus?
No, to be honest, that isn't something I'm reading. I'm a bit kind of, what is it? Well, I suppose preoccupied, and you know why I'm preoccupied at the moment. But yeah, the thing was that the vitamin D came into the forefront a few years ago, didn't it, in terms of just how deficient we are generally in the British Isles of vitamin D. So many of us are deficient, and that we should supplement in the months when the sun is not high in the sky.
Absolutely. And do you do that?
Yeah, well, I have been doing over the last couple of years, really, because of the research that came around. And I know I lived in, you remember we lived in Colorado for a time. And actually, in the winter time, you were covered up from here, hats on. And
the is peeking out.
Yeah, so the UV exposure in the winter months was virtually nil. And I must say, you know what, when I came back from America, my skin was in the worst condition it's ever been in my whole life. And I thought I might never wear shorts again. That's how dry, because I have dry skin anyway,
Yeah.
And
I know you have mentioned that once before, yeah.
So actually, I started taking a supplement not long after that, and it's made a big difference to just my skin, for one, which for me is a big thing.
And I think energy levels as well with vitamin D, don't you? It just makes
Yeah.
me, I noticed that my energy levels had increased because I've been taking a vitamin D supplement for quite some time now. But really it was due to the parasites that I had at the time and the fact that, I couldn't absorb anything. So I was low on everything. So
Yeah.
once I got rid of that parasite, I then had to build everything up. And vitamin D was one of those ones that I was really, really low on. So I have been doing that. And I just think it's a great thing to do. If you're living in this country, this weather, you should be taking a vitamin D supplement, really, shouldn't you? In the colder months,
Well, certainly, we say from October to April
Yeah.
that when you would supplement. So what were you saying about the connections with the virus and vitamin D?
Just reading these things that are saying that, and I don't know whether it's because vitamin D naturally increases your immunity, but they've said that people with high levels of well, actually they've said it the other way around, that a lot of the people that have had COVID-19 have had really low levels of vitamin D. Now, that's also probably due to the fact that a lot of people have got some underlying conditions, and when you've got some underlying conditions, you are often lacking in vitamin D, or your absorption of it is not so great.
Yeah.
So they're doing loads more research into it, as they have to, and find out. But I just thought that was a really interesting correlation, because that's something we can easily and simply do something about.
Yes, well, this is true. I mean, the thing that struck me really about the virus is the fact that a lot of the people that are struggling are obese. The link with type 2 diabetes, I think that was made, wasn't it?
Absolutely. And they have definitely made a link with obesity as well. This is why I find it, I suppose, quite surprising that they haven't really said more in the media about, being a bit more healthy. I mean, they haven't promoted health and well-being. And this is a perfect opportunity to, I think, to put it out there that, you have to take responsibility to a certain extent for your own health, for your own well-being.
I mean, I think it is interesting, though, the directive, it almost became a directive, didn't it? The daily dose of exercise. And that, while we're out and about, those of us who do it all the time anyway, we're having fun spotting the novices, inappropriate footwear and, stuff like this.
That could be, couldn't it? That could be a really good benefit that comes out of all of this, is that maybe people will get moving a bit more.
Absolutely. And I mean, they're talking about now, aren't they, encouraging people to walk to work, bike to work.
Yeah, which is okay, I suppose, if you only live a couple of miles away. But if you've got to go from Newark to Nottingham, it's probably going to take you most of the day to get there.
Maybe not on the bike. But no, I mean, the infrastructure is the problem when it comes to a lot of these things that, we know, no doubt, that walking is beneficial, and yet, it's almost discouraged to the extent that footpaths are a health hazard.
Yeah, and cycle paths. I mean, we have got a cycle path down into Newark, and then it just goes away. And so the point where it becomes dangerous to cycle where you're in town, there is, it sort of stops, doesn't it, at the at Castle train station, and it's like, that's great now.
I guess you could get the train to Nottingham then.
Take your bike on the train. Actually, my son-in-law did that for some time. He used to bike into there, Castlegate, and then, take his bike on the train with him to cycle to work at the other end. Yeah. So it's possible, but not ideal, because if a whole group of people did it, then the train would be full, wouldn't they? Totally full. Everybody coming in with their bike.
Oh, yeah. Well, no, you lock it up at the station. You don't take
he was using it to ride to work, you see, at the other
I feel
well. Yeah.
Oh, yeah, the folding bikes are really good for that, aren't they?
Yeah, they are, yeah. So he was taking it on the train, but yeah, I suppose otherwise, if it's close at one end, you could lock it up at the station.
Yeah.
Might get a few wheels nicked, but hey, still get it there. But yeah, so movement is vital, isn't it, for your immunity? Absolutely vital.
And I mean, I think the walking is just about the best thing we can do for our bodies, really, in terms of the cardiovascular exercise. Of course, you know, thinking about exercise, there's not, you know, we need really to explore more than just the cardiovascular component, but we do know that you know, the beneficial effects of increasing your heart rate, your respiratory rate is just fabulous for everything. Not the least.
Absolutely. And just because we say going for a walk doesn't mean it's a stroll, does it? I mean, you know, sometimes I'm sort of power walking around because I'm going to be back to teach class. So, you know, it can be quite an energetic thing. So
Yeah, make it energetic.
yeah, and it's energetic. I don't think you have to go down the running route if you don't want to.
Well, so, you know, I mean, this is the thing, isn't it? That you see Joe Wicks on the television with his high intensity interval training,
Yeah.
which can be beneficial for lots of us. But, you know, embarking on something new at this stage where you might risk injury, it's not necessarily wise, because you don't want to end up in A&E, do you?
No, of course you don't. And some of those things that he gets up to, you know, they might be great for children who are a little bit more flexible and bendable than some of us are.
Well, you know, and it's if you're used to it is the thing, really, isn't it?
Yeah. And so you're getting people that have done nothing that just leap up and do this and put their back out and things like that. It's always appropriate exercise, isn't it? Appropriate exercise.
So walking's accessible to everybody, isn't it?
Absolutely.
Well, most of us, I would say.
Most of us, yeah. And it's such an easy thing to do. I suppose the only downside to walking is if you're limited on time. You know, if you started to walk to work and you've got, I don't know, 3 or 4 miles to go to work, what do you think that would take? That would probably take an hour, wouldn't it? So,
yeah, well, you remember the day I told you when Jack missed the train and he ended up walking all the way to school? Like 3.5 miles or 4 miles, and it took him an hour and a quarter.
An hour and a quarter, exactly. And did he get there in time? Or did
he was late, but he did get there, luckily, and I was oblivious to all of this while I was at work with you, you know.
Yeah, I remember that.
Yeah, it would take you quite some time, but, you know, I mean, small doses. I love, you know, I'm a big fan of Dr. Chatterjee.
Yeah.
And he advocates, you know, small doses, because if we set ourselves targets that are unachievable, then we're just set to fail, aren't we?
Absolutely. And I think that's the thing, that we all, you know, we have a tendency to set these incredible targets and goals and intentions. And of course, then we wake up the next day and we don't do it because we think, oh, you know, I was going to go for a 10-mile hike. Well, just set, like you say, small, achievable little steps. That's the way forward, isn't it?
Yeah, definitely.
And consistency. So it becomes a routine. You know, so like we were saying, because we've been discussing this before about the walking that we do, because it's so consistent in our lives, it doesn't feel like it's an effort. And in fact, if I don't walk, I really miss it. I'm like, I haven't walked today, and it just feels horrible, doesn't it? So that consistency is important.
It is. It's kind of getting over the hump to get to that place is the challenge, really. Because in the first instance, you're not right away going to be in that place where you miss it if you don't do it. So it's getting to that spot that can be the challenge for lots of people.
Yeah, it can. And so you've got to make sure that you can actually get there. So, you know, and
it's the opportunity that we've never had an opportunity like this before, with time on our hands, perhaps. And
yeah, I mean, some of us do, others obviously don't, but some people do. And, you know, this is a great time to do something different, isn't it? And to try all sorts of things. I mean, I've actually done a lot more yoga during this time.
Yes.
So I've done a lot more yoga. I've also been attending your classes, and I see you attend my classes. So again, you know, it gives us the opportunity to practice what we preach, doesn't it? Gives us the opportunity to do exercise for ourselves, which is so, so different to teaching it. You know, because everybody says to me, oh, you do Pilates all the time. No, I don't. I teach Pilates all the time. I don't do it all the time. And to have this opportunity to do more of that has been fantastic.
Yeah.
I mean, for me, the 4 things I've done is Pilates, yoga, walking, and cycling. Those are the 4 things that I've done during this time. What about you? What have you done?
Yeah, well, the same really. Walking every day, cycling 2 or 3 times a week, yoga 2 or 3 times a week, and your classes, obviously, with the Pilates.
Yeah.
But you know, I think the thing that that I'm increasingly becoming aware of is the benefits of the meditative sort of elements of what we do. And I think this also goes some way to boosting the immune system that we were talking about, because we know that this exposure to low-grade stress in our lives increases the level of inflammation in our bodies. And so we're then already in a less suboptimal state, if you want to call it that. And so anything we can do that brings that level of inflammation down is going to benefit us at this time. And so the yoga, mind-body connection, anything with that embedded in it, and taking the opportunity to really, really relax, even if it's only just for a brief time each day.
Yeah, it's so powerful, isn't it? And that's where the breathing comes in, doesn't it? Because breathing, you know, I mean, we we do it a lot in the start of class, but it's just so beneficial. And I'm always saying, as you are to clients, you know, if you're just feeling anxious, just in your own time, just 1 or 2 minutes of breathing will just totally change things. And I'm a huge fan of making sure the exhalation is longer than the inhalation. So you start to stimulate your vagus nerve and takes you into your parasympathetic nervous system and all of that sort of thing, which is absolutely wonderful. Yeah. But one of the things that I've really enjoyed the most is doing this yoga nidra, the meditation that I'm doing on Tuesday morning, and seeing clients come back and back and back to that, and all of the feedback I get from that is just wonderful, because it's about allowing ourselves time to de-stress, you know, to get rid of some of that low level thing. And I think we just don't have enough time in our ordinary busyness of lives, or we haven't allowed ourselves enough time to do those types of things. And for me, that again, that's been a great revelation, you know, because I thought that I was, you know, a chilled person and blah, blah, blah. And that's how I felt. I felt chilled. I felt great about all sorts of things. And then we go into this lockdown, and as the weeks have progressed, I realized that I had been operating from this low level of stress and not even realizing it.
No, well, that's the danger. It becomes something that we are conditioned to accept, and therefore we notice it no more. And that's the problem for lots of us, really, that we're just on that autopilot. Your brain just loves it. When we do things without thinking about it, it's less effort, you know, for the brain to process. And so we just go about on autopilot, not noticing. And so, yeah, there's time to notice, really just notice.
Yeah.
And make changes where you see fit. And I mean, even like you say, it doesn't have to be a long time of doing this, just a brief moment to take some deep breaths and maybe close your eyes and have some quiet time with yourself.
Yeah, absolutely. And just to try to get those levels of worry and anxiety down. And, you know, another one of those ways, quite an easy way, is don't listen to the news all the time. I mean, I know we have to sort of tune in and find out what's going on. But I was saying this to my mum, you know, don't listen to the news all the time. And she's got the radio on and the news is coming in and in and in. And she gets, you know, it raises her levels of anxiety just like it would anyone else.
Oh,
it's, you know, important to step away from that rather than be bombarded with things that make us feel down, I suppose, you know, and increase our levels of anxiety. Not a good place to be, is it?
No, it's yeah, strange times. It's
Strange times, strange times. So they've got the, you know, there's obviously lots of horrible sides to it and horrific sides to it, but there's also so much benefit as well. Um, for example, you know, I've been developing my creativity again. I've been doing my art classes online, and I'd started my art a couple of years ago and then stopped because I got too busy. And I just didn't have the mental space to be creative in that way. So even if I had the time, even if I came back and I had an hour or two to myself, I hadn't calmed down enough. I hadn't got the mental headspace to then go into my creative side. And this has allowed me that, because I have gained that space back. And
yeah. Well, I mean, I don't know if you class painting the fence at the back of the garden creative.
it's all creativity.
Yeah. Well, I paint it. You know, I love painting, but I'm in no way creative in the terms of I can't draw. I couldn't draw to save my life, but I have been getting out the Annie Sloan paint and painting my bookshelves. And
I was going to say, in one breath you say you're not creative, and yet you do all your furniture and paint all of that. That's creativity. Creativity isn't just defined as one narrow little thing.
well, true.
You know, so you are. We just have different ways of expressing it, which is great, isn't it?
I know. Your opportunities to access things that maybe you didn't know that you were even interested in. I think that's the thing as well. It shifts as we move through life. Yeah. You know, if you told me when I was 20 that I'd be really thoroughly enjoying yoga and now training to be a yoga teacher, I would have poked you in the eye, because, you know, if it wasn't high impact aerobics, jumping up and down, then I just wouldn't be interested. Oh yeah. Step aerobics, like full body lycra. It was all going on, Philippa, I tell you.
I think we've all done so much of that, didn't we? That step thing was such a big thing, wasn't it? I mean, why we decided to wear leotards, goodness knows.
It was probably a man who designed the whole
concept. I know, that's it. You can only exercise in a leotard when you're doing this step.
Yeah, we say that. It was Jane Fonda, wasn't it, who was leading the way with the whole body lycra. But anyway, yeah. No, I mean, looking back then, it's a lifetime ago, and part of growing and evolving as a human being is kind of where I see that journey of self-discovery and never ending, really, on this.
Never ending. Yeah, it's never ending. You never stop learning, or hopefully never stop growing, you know, and to have an open mind and just accept things and try different things is just the way forwards, isn't it? Yeah. Especially when we're thrown into and thrust into something like this, which, you know, the general public, we could never have foreseen this happening. But it just gives us an opportunity to also think, how do we react to it? You know, do we throw our hands up and say life's in chaos and all the rest of it? Or do we find ways of managing it and different ways of being and different ways of learning and doing? And it gives us an opportunity, like you say, for growth, which I think is really important.
Yeah.
You know, passion. Because your passion, whatever your passion might be, you've got to have that in your life as well.
Yeah, I mean, that's so important for just general well-being, isn't it? If you feel unfulfilled in your work or in your personal life, then, you know, that's really going to have a bearing. So wherever you can find an opportunity, whether it's you know, listening to podcasts, dare I say,
just taking some time for yourself, you know.
Yeah. I think regardless, when we get back to whatever the new version of reality is, we really should take this and run with it if we get the opportunity to have that in your life.
Yeah, I mean, I think, you know, so many of us have discovered things about ourselves and maybe reassessed our lives and what we want and what our future looks like, and it might look completely different. And it's about trying to capture these feelings that we've got, this learning that we've got from this time, and taking it forwards. And that, you know, so it could be a really wonderfully exciting future for everyone and for the country, you know, as well. It's all about opportunity, isn't it? And I wanted to mention one other thing that for me has changed quite considerably. And I know you've had problems with this in the past, so it'll be interesting to hear whether it's changed for you, but that's sleep. And, you know, because I'm not getting, I mean, I still am an early riser because I'm a morning person and always have been, and I will always be. But I have been getting more sleep, and my sleep has been better. And that's had a huge impact, again, I think, on my well-being. Because I think, again, if you're sleep deprived, I don't think that's great for your immunity either.
Oh man, no, sleep's so important, so important. We really can't underestimate the power of sleep to renew our bodies and our brains. We, you know, Western society, we're so sleep deprived, and yet we don't know it. And of course, this is not me saying this. This is Dr. Chatterjee's lovely expert on sleep. I wish I could remember his name. But yeah, so many things tied up with that as well. You know, the use of devices too close, the blue light coming out of your devices if you use it too close to bedtime, exposure to morning light, as I mentioned. That actually it's about the cortisol levels, and that will promote restful sleep if you get that exposure early in the day.
Absolutely.
And so
simple as a cooler bedroom, you know, keeping the temperature in your bedroom lower. You know, I mean, I always sleep with the window open, even in the winter. Couldn't bear to sleep with the window closed. You know, and it's just little things like that, isn't it? But
well, it's appreciating the value really of sleep.
Yeah,
is part of the problem, because people, you know, lots of people burn the candle at both ends. You know, you could watch television 24 hours a day if you wanted to, and devices. It's all available, and it's all very tempting, isn't it? It's tempting us, and so you know, it can be difficult to put down the devices before a good hour before you want to go to sleep. But and the other thing was caffeine. They were talking about on the webcast, caffeine. Even if you think that you're immune to the effects of caffeine and that you go to bed and sleep all night, the evidence is that you will not be as rested. The sleep will not be as deep, it will not be as good, and you will not be as rested. So, you know, I know people, I say this about caffeine, I never have caffeine after midday, this is me, you know. And they say, well, I can drink an espresso at 10 o'clock at night and go to sleep perfectly well. And maybe they do, but the evidence that they're not sleeping as deeply and they're not sleeping as well.
It's the quality of sleep, isn't it?
Quality. Really important.
Yeah, I think it is. And yeah, I mean, I think everyone said you mustn't drink, you know, or not to have caffeine after lunchtime or midday, which just seems sensible. I mean, to be honest, I don't have much caffeine anyway, because I'm a bit of a herbal tea drinker. So very, very, very rarely will I have a coffee. However, having said that, Max, my husband, a lot of coffee. Well, not a lot of coffee. He always has to start the day with a pot of coffee.
Oh, yeah. Well, so if you're going to have it at all, that's the time to have it, isn't it?
That's what we decided, because you can't quite give it up. But, you know, we thought, okay, have it first thing in the morning then, and then you've got the rest of the day to get it out of your system, so that hopefully you sleep better.
Yeah, it's really important, sleep. And so my sleep, you were asking me about my sleep.
Yeah.
I'm a slave to not sleeping, aren't I?
Yes.
And it fluctuates is the answer. But the other thing is that for those of us who do suffer with, you know, I call it insomnia, whether it really is or not, but not sleeping well, waking up often in the night, waking up early and not being able to go back to sleep and things like that. The worst thing you can do is worry about it.
Yeah, totally.
So you know, you take it. If you get it, you take it, and yes, that was a good one.
Yeah.
And if you don't, then you know you've always got tonight when maybe that will happen better.
Yeah.
So
Absolutely. And interesting enough, when we first went into lockdown, and I was starting to get a better sleep pattern, I actually had a little afternoon nap occasionally, 10 minutes, 15 minutes, and I never ever sleep during the day. But my body really wanted me to. And so I thought, you know what, I'm just going to listen to it. And I think that helped me reset things again, because it was almost like I was
well,
picking up on lost sleep.
I mean, they say you can't really catch up on lost sleep, but what the evidence is around that is that a short nap in the afternoon won't interfere with your circadian rhythm, and
Yeah.
so actually, and it can be beneficial to take just a 10 or 20-minute power nap in the afternoon. And certainly, I mean, after 2:30, I'll be nodding off if I'm not careful, if I sat down for long enough.
Yeah, that's it. It's quite easy to fall asleep then, isn't it? I have to say I don't do it anymore. It was just that for those few weeks, and that seemed to just do it for me then. But I think that's because my sleep pattern has improved, definitely. Uh,
Yeah, I mean, if you don't feel the need for it, then yeah, don't bother. But I tell you what, this story, my parents, my dad was in farming back in the day, and so they always had the early morning milking of the cows to do, and so he would go really early to work and then come home, have breakfast, go back to work, and then always in the afternoon would come home and have a nap. And you know what? They have had that routine for the whole of their lives, as long as I've been alive, which is quite a long time. And so, yeah, I mean, I know I cannot ring them at, after between 2 and 4 in the afternoon, because they're snoozing.
that's quite a long. How long do they snooze for? Not the whole.
Well, no, it's just that it's sometime in that window that they'll have their heads down, and then that's fine. They're recharged and ready to go again.
Yeah, which is, and it's whatever, you have to do what suits you, don't you? What suits you and your body. It's about working that out. And really doesn't matter what anyone else is up to. It's what actually works for you, what suits you, which is the good thing, isn't it?
Yeah.
Okay, so I think we've talked about quite a few things to sort of maybe perhaps build your immunity. But I think it's something within our control. It gives us the feeling of power and control back. Doing something brilliant and wonderful for our bodies is just look at little ways of building your immunity. So like you're saying, move your body more. Just get up and walk, if nothing else. Of course, you should be doing your Pilates and your yoga. We were bound to say that, aren't we? Bound to say that. De-stress. Switch the news off. Breathe a bit more. Meditate. There's so many apps out there for meditation. You can, it's very, very easy to start. Come along to the Yoga Nidra. Try these new things. Sleep. We've just talked about sleep. I suppose eat well. We sort of briefly talked about that at the beginning when we mentioned obesity, but it's common sense, isn't it? It's common sense. Fill your diet with rainbow colours. Eat well, and you're going to boost your immunity. Fill your diet with junk food. What do you think is going to happen? Do you really think you're going to have a super strong immunity? So to me, those sorts of things are common sense. And I suppose the last one I think is fairly important is stay hydrated.
Oh, yeah.
Drink a little bit of this. Some water. You've all seen me drink this. This is actually, oh, there's a hair texture. That is just herbal tea. And what's yours?
Tell from the label, lemon and honey.
Lemon and honey. And mine is, what was that one? Cinnamon and apple.
Oh,
Very
yes.
nice.
I like that at Christmas. It's very seedy, that one.
Well, I like it only because it tastes like the classic yogi tea, which I'm out of at the moment. And that's my favourite one. I love the cinnamony one. It's just a really nice flavour. But yeah, so I think simple things. It's the simple things in life and doing them, small, simple things consistently that start to make the big changes in your life.
Yeah.
Don't you agree? Yeah. So nice, easy steps. So I think on that note, we will finish for today. This is our first ever podcast, so I hope you enjoy it. 2 peas in a pod. So Philippa Botrill and Philippa Butler. And we look forward to seeing you soon. Bye.